After that, he kept on writing and recording music in the privacy of his home studio. And talking with George about his recent work, it was clear that he had a lot of other things on his mind besides just music.
I know the one benefit concert that you've done in England in the past couple of 20 years or so was for the Natural Law Party back in '92, I believe. What brought that about?
Well, it was one of the things that made it easier was I'd just done a tour of Japan with Eric Clapton's band. So I was kind of up to speed with the songs that I was doing, and I had the band was there that knew all the material. But that was, I think there was a general election going on, and as far as I'm concerned, whichever, the Neil Innes, from
The
Ruddles, he wrote a song once and he said, no matter who you vote for, the government always gets in. And it's like that, in England you always get, as far as I was concerned, the left, the centre and the right, they're all really the same. They're all different shades of the same greyness. And although it was a long shot, Maharishi tried to get these people formed together into a party which would be called the Natural Law Party, which was
the same Maharishi Mahesh
Yogi. And the idea behind it really is to have consciousness as the basic thing, because if really, we get in government, or we get in any situation in life, we get the reflection of our own consciousness. We can't really complain about what we have, because that is us. It's a reflection of our own being. Now, if we could have people who are actually conscious in a spiritual sense, then all the underlying problems to society, it wouldn't be able to change just overnight, but over a generation or 2 generations, you could have things where, for instance, say in England, and I'm sure it's the same here, you get disease. So you've got a lot of expenditure on hospitals and on fixing up people who have disease. Now the problem is that most doctors, they study disease. They don't know about health. So you'd need to reprogram stuff so that you teach people about how to be healthy. That way you don't spend so much money on disease. You'd have, people would be healthier. You wouldn't have such a requirement for with all the various things that take up all the money. You'd be able to use that money for something else. So the natural law that operates on this planet or in the universe, everything, as I said earlier, everything works in a perfect order. And there's a scheme to things which has a certain intelligence that drives it and makes everything work. Now, if we as individuals could go to that level of consciousness where we can bring it into our being, and as Maharishi Mahesh Yogi once said, for a forest to be green, each tree must be green. So it's no use just 1 or 2 people being like this. You'd have to make the whole of society, if they had that understanding. And that's what I think really you'd have to school people right from being children. Teach people about their health, about their bodies, about consciousness, because it's all to do with consciousness. Raise the level of consciousness, and then everything automatically becomes better.
Do you think it can happen, or do you think people are totally on autopilot too much?
It can happen, but it's something which will take a long, long time, generations of people. If you look now, just through, say, from the 60s or the 50s, there's a lot more people, thanks to, say, Indian music, thanks to rock and roll music, who have got much more understanding. You go out there on the street now, you can find Indian spice shops, Indian restaurants, and places to go for yoga, for meditation. There's a much higher awareness, generally, on those kind of things. And so it is seeping through. Where did all the really good hippies go when they all dropped out?
They're driving Volvos, George.
Well, I don't think all of them are. I think a lot of them are, have brought up, there's probably 2 generations of kids now who are much more open to that type of consciousness, and they've been brought up by, being vegetarian or whatever that helps the society become you know, a much more balanced. It's all to do with the balance. You know, we've got too much extreme going on.
You're optimistic.
You have to be optimistic, yeah. You know.
Me too.
Yeah.
I just it's so funny because when you talk to people, it's down the middle. Those who think it's getting better, those who think it's getting worse, and those who think it's reflected in the music in all cases.
But it is getting better and worse because that's the nature of relativity. You know, good and bad, good and bad. But the individual, you know, if the individual gets that consciousness, then it doesn't matter because in a way you can retain the balance between the good and the bad. You know, because really good and bad are the same. They are.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing. So it's like in the middle is the safe path.
We're going to have more from VH1's interview with George Harrison, plus a one-of-a-kind performance when we...